Hey everyone, and welcome. For those of you who are new to the channel, be sure to check out more videos like this one on our YouTube channel, Pals Fundamentals.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be taking a look at some pretty interesting developments in the Danish kingdom.
Okay.
So that's, of course, Denmark, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands.
Right.
And we'll be focusing specifically on the possibility of this kingdom breaking up as independence movements are gaining traction in both Greenland and the Faroe Islands.
Interesting.
So to start us off,
Yeah.
Greenland is rich in natural resources.
Yes, it has minerals like rare earth elements, zinc, iron, ore, and uranium.
Wow.
And that's in addition to fish and potential oil and gas reserves.
It sounds like a lot of resources are at stake here.
Absolutely.
So then who controls these resources becomes a really big question.
Right at the heart of Greenland's independence movement is this very question.
Makes sense.
It's tied to the Inuit population's right to self-determination and addressing Denmark's colonial legacy.
Okay, so let's talk about the money involved.
Okay.
Greenland currently receives a block grant from Denmark.
Yes.
It's roughly 3.9 billion Danish kroner annually.
A significant part of Greenland's budget.
Yeah, a big chunk for sure.
Yes.
So let's dive a bit deeper into the politics of this independence movement,
Right.
specifically within Greenland.
Okay.
What are some of the parties involved?
Well, there's the Inuit Ataqatigiit,
Okay.
or IA,
Okay.
a left-wing pro-independence party that currently leads the Greenlandic Parliament,
Okay.
known as Inatsisartut.
And then there's Siumut.
Yes,
Yeah.
a social democratic party.
Okay.
Historically, they've been more cautious on independence.
Interesting.
Then there's Democratic,
Okay.
a liberal party that supports remaining within the Danish realm, but with greater autonomy.
Right. And I understand there are a couple other parties that are also pushing for independence.
Yes, so there's Nalarak,
Yep.
a centrist pro-independence party.
Okay.
And then there's Muta Borup Ijjed,
Okay.
Greenland's current prime minister.
Right.
He leads IA's push for full independence.
So it seems like Greenland has come a long way in its quest for self-determination.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
In 1979, Greenland gained home rule with the establishment of their own parliament.
Right.
And then they gained even greater autonomy in 2009 with the Self-Government Act.
Okay.
But it was really IA's victory in the 2021 election
Yes.
that signaled a renewed push for full independence.
It seems like that election was a turning point.
Yes.
Now let's shift our focus to the Faroe Islands.
Okay.
They've got a really strong economy, mainly based on their fishing industry
Right.
and aquaculture.
They're actually a global leader in salmon farming.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yes.
So the Faroe Islands also receive a block grant from Denmark. I understand.
They do. It's about 642 million Danish kroner,
Okay.
much less than Greenland's block grant.
Right.
And because their economy is already so robust, it's less crucial to their budget.
So it sounds like for the Faroe Islands, it's not just about the money.
Right.
What are some of the main things driving their independence movement then?
It's about preserving their unique language and culture.
Oh,
And there are some disagreements with Denmark on things like fishing quotas
okay.
and foreign policy, especially concerning the EU and Russia.
So they want more control over their own affairs.
Yes, they want to be represented on the international stage as a separate nation.
Okay, and what does the political landscape look like in the Faroe Islands?
Well, they have several political parties in the Faroes parliament.
Right.
It's known as the Løgtingi.
Lektingi.
There's Republic, also known as Jodeveldi,
Okay.
a left-wing pro-independence party.
Okay.
Then there's Folkeflokkeren, or the People's Party.
Okay.
They're conservative, but they also support independence.
Interesting.
And there's Sambandsflokkeren, the Union Party,
Okay.
a liberal party that advocates for continued union with Denmark.
So there are parties on both sides of the issue.
Yes, there's also Javna Arflokkeren, the Social Democratic Party.
Okay.
They want more autonomy for the Faroe Islands, but within the Danish realm. The current prime minister is Aksel V. Johannesson, the leader of Javna Arflokkeren.
Okay.
And he leads a coalition government that includes both pro-union and pro-independence parties.
Oh, wow. So they've got a mix of viewpoints represented in the government right now.
Absolutely. Another important figure is Hanni Hoydal, the leader of Jovelzi.
Okay.
So, yeah, a lot of different voices and viewpoints.
Definitely.
And the Faroe Islands, like Greenland, have made strides in their pursuit of greater autonomy.
Oh, my.
In 1948, they achieved home rule, which allowed them to establish their parliament.
Okay.
In 2005, the Takeover Act gave them greater control over areas like foreign policy.
Okay.
And in 2018, a referendum was planned that could have led to more autonomy or even full independence.
Right.
But it was ultimately postponed.
So they've been taking steps toward greater autonomy over time.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm curious to know Denmark's perspective on all of this.
Okay.
What are their thoughts on Greenland and the Faroe Islands potentially becoming independent?
Well, Denmark has some strategic and economic interests in maintaining its influence in the Arctic,
Right.
particularly through Greenland.
I see.
They have economic ties to both Greenland and the Faroe Islands
Okay.
through block grants, trade, and investments.
Okay.
And Denmark is constitutionally responsible for the defense, foreign affairs, and monetary policy of the entire Danish realm.
So they have a lot at stake.
Yes.
What about public opinion in Denmark?
It's actually pretty mixed.
Really?
Some people support maintaining the unity of the realm,
Okay.
while others recognize the right to self-determination.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What about their key political players?
Well, Mette Frederiksen,
Okay.
Denmark's prime minister,
Okay.
she leads the Social Democrats, and her government supports the unity of the realm,
Right.
but they acknowledge the right to self-determination.
That's a tricky balance.
It is.
It's fascinating to see how, even though Greenland and the Faroe Islands are part of the Danish realm,
Right.
they still have a voice in Danish politics.
Yep.
Through the Danish parliament, known as the Folketinget,
Absolutely.
which includes representatives from both Greenland and the Faroe Islands.
Right. Their voices can be heard directly within Danish politics.
It really highlights the complexity of their relationship.
Yeah.
So what does all of this mean on a global scale?
Okay.
What are the implications for the rest of the world if these places become independent?
Well, the potential breakup of the Danish kingdom has some really significant geopolitical implications,
Okay.
especially when it comes to the Arctic. With climate change opening up new shipping routes and
Yeah.
access to resources,
Yeah.
the Arctic is becoming more and more strategically important.
Makes sense. And that brings us to some of the major players on the world stage,
Right.
like the United States.
Yeah.
They've had a long-standing interest in Greenland,
Yes.
particularly with their military base in Thule.
Absolutely.
What's their perspective on all of this?
Well, they've also expressed interest in Greenland's resources,
I see.
particularly those rare earth elements.
It's essential for many technologies.
So the U.S. definitely has a stake in what happens in Greenland.
Yes.
What about China? Are they interested in Greenland as well?
Yes. China has been increasing its investment in the Arctic, including in Greenland.
Okay.
They see the region as a potential source of resources,
Right.
a possible new shipping route that could connect Asia to Europe more quickly.
So we've got the U.S. and China both taking an interest in Greenland.
Yes.
What about Russia? They're a major Arctic power with a pretty significant presence in the region.
Right. Russia has substantial territorial claims in the Arctic,
Okay.
and they've been bolstering their military presence.
Mm.
They see the Arctic as part of their sphere of influence.
So Greenland's independence could really shake things up in the Arctic,
It could.
with the U.S., China, and Russia all vying for influence.
Yes.
That's a lot to unpack, and we'll definitely revisit this in our next video.
Okay.
But for now, let's take a closer look at how all of this might affect the people who live in these places.
Greenland, the Faroe Islands, and Denmark.
Yeah. So for many Greenlanders' independence, it represents an opportunity to kind of reclaim their Inuit identity and culture.
It's about decolonization and self-determination.
Exactly. And some see it as a chance for economic empowerment, you know?
Right, that makes sense. But wouldn't independence also come with some challenges? Like
Oh, yeah.
building an entirely new nation's got to be a massive undertaking.
For sure, there would definitely be obstacles to overcome.
Yeah.
One concern is whether an independent Greenland could even be economically viable on its own.
Right, replacing that income from the Danish block grant would be a huge hurdle.
Absolutely. Greenland has potential in industries like fishing,
Oh, okay.
mining, and tourism,
Okay.
but developing those industries would take time,
Mm-hmm.
investment, and careful planning.
Yeah, not to mention the environmental concerns, especially with mining.
Right.
Greenland's pristine environment is a valuable resource,
Absolutely.
so sustainable development's essential.
Yeah, finding that balance between economic development and protecting the environment is going to be crucial for an independent Greenland.
What about the social and cultural impacts of independence? How do Greenlanders feel about that?
Well, there's definitely a sense of hope and excitement, especially among the younger generations, about the prospect of a truly independent Greenland.
Yeah, it must be a powerful feeling to envision reclaiming your own identity and shaping your own future.
Yeah.
Are there any concerns among Greenlanders about independence, though?
Yeah, some are concerned about losing the social safety nets and public services that are currently provided by Denmark.
Right. Being part of a larger, more established nation offers a certain level of security.
Exactly. And others worry about potential instability or conflict.
Go.
particularly given Greenland's strategic importance in the Arctic
Right.
and the growing international interest in the region.
It's a mix of hope and apprehension, which is understandable given the huge magnitude of change we're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, shifting our focus to the Faroe Islands, how do they view this potential for independence?
Well, like Greenland, there's a really strong sense of cultural identity in the Faroe Islands.
Okay.
They're proud of their unique language traditions and history.
Right.
So for many Faroes, independence is about preserving and celebrating that distinct identity.
So it's about having the freedom to define themselves without feeling overshadowed by Denmark.
Exactly.
And as we discussed earlier, the Faroes' economy is already really robust
Yes.
due to their fishing and aquaculture industries.
Right.
So they feel more confident about their ability to thrive economically on their own.
Yes, they have a proven track record of economic success.
Right. Are there any concerns about the potential economic impact of independence for them?
Some worry about losing access to European markets
Okay.
if they're no longer part of the Danish realm.
Right. They currently benefit from Denmark's membership in the EU.
Exactly. Makes sense. Others are concerned about the cost of establishing their own independent institutions and services.
So even with their strong economy, they have some potential economic obstacles to consider.
Yeah.
What about the social and cultural aspects of independence? Any concerns there?
Well, some people are concerned about potential division within Faroe society,
Okay.
as not everyone agrees on independence.
It's understandable that such a significant decision would lead to some debate and disagreement.
Right.
Finding common ground when there are strong feelings on all sides can be a challenge.
Absolutely. And there are also concerns about potential cultural shifts that could come with greater independence. Some worry about losing the positive aspects of their connection with Denmark and their shared history.
It's a lot to weigh the potential gains and losses. It's important to remember that these are complex issues with no easy answers.
For sure.
But let's shift our focus to Denmark's perspective now.
Okay.
They're the ones who could potentially lose 2 parts of their kingdom.
Right.
How are they feeling about all of this?
For many Danes, the idea of Greenland and the Faroe Islands becoming independent brings mixed emotions.
Okay.
They feel pride in having supported their journeys towards greater autonomy,
Okay.
but also a sense of sadness at the thought of the realm dissolving.
Yeah, it's like watching your children grow up and leave home.
Right.
You're happy for them, but you miss having them around.
And that's a fitting analogy.
And there are concerns about the economic and strategic implications of a potential breakup.
Absolutely. It goes beyond just politics and economics.
Right.
It's about shared history, culture, and personal connections. It's about a sense of identity.
It makes it a particularly sensitive and emotional issue for everyone involved.
For sure.
It seems like there are mixed emotions on all sides. So where do we go from here? What are the next steps in this whole process?
Well, the future of the Danish kingdom is pretty uncertain.
Okay.
In Greenland, the independence movement continues to gain traction,
Okay.
making referendum on independence likely in the next few years.
What about the Faroe Islands? Are they on a similar path?
It's possible, but their situation is less clear-cut.
Okay.
While there is substantial support for independence, there's also a significant portion of the population that wants to maintain their relationship with Denmark.
So their future is less certain than Greenland's.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding how this will all play out.
One thing is for sure, though.
Okay.
The discussions and debates about independence are not going away anytime soon.
It's a captivating story, and we'll be watching closely to see how it unfolds.
We encourage you to do the same. This is a story that could reshape not only the Danish kingdom, but also the geopolitical landscape of the Arctic and beyond.
We've examined the human perspective, but there are also those international implications to consider.
Right. In our next video, we'll dive into the global context
Okay.
and explore how countries like the US, China, and Russia are watching these developments closely.
All right, so welcome back to our video about this potential breakup of the Danish kingdom.
Yeah.
We've been looking at the political, economic, and human sides of this story. Now let's shift gears and look at those global implications.
Okay.
What does all this mean for the rest of the world?
Well, the possible independence of Greenland and the Faroe Islands,
Right.
it's really drawn attention from a lot of countries,
Yeah.
particularly those with interests in the Arctic.
That makes sense, especially with the Arctic becoming more strategically important.
Right.
You know, with climate change opening up shipping routes
Absolutely.
and access to all those resources.
Yeah,
The U.S., China, and Russia are all paying pretty close attention to these developments.
for sure.
So let's start with the U.S.
Okay.
They've had that long-standing presence in Greenland
Right.
with their military base at Thule,
Yes,
and they've expressed interest in Greenland's mineral resources,
absolutely.
particularly those rare earth elements we talked about.
Right. Those are essential for a lot of technologies.
So the U.S. sees Greenland as strategically important then.
Yes, both for military and economic reasons.
What about China? Are they interested in Greenland as well?
Yes, China has been increasing its investment in the Arctic in general,
Okay.
including Greenland.
Right.
They see the region as a potential source of resources
Yeah, okay.
and a possible new shipping route
Right.
that could link Asia to Europe faster.
So it seems like the U.S. and China might end up competing for influence there in an independent Greenland.
It's definitely a possibility, and both countries are aware of that.
Right.
The U.S. is being cautious about China's growing presence in the Arctic,
Okay.
and they've taken steps to counter it
Oh,
by strengthening their relationship with Greenland.
so it sounds like we've got a really complicated geopolitical situation brewing.
We do.
Now let's talk about Russia. They're a major Arctic power
Yeah.
with a significant presence in the region already.
They have substantial territorial claims in the Arctic,
Okay.
and they've been strengthening their military presence there, too.
Right.
They view the Arctic as part of their sphere of influence.
So Russia will likely be pretty assertive in protecting its interests in the Arctic.
Most likely.
Greenland's independence would definitely add another layer of complexity to this already delicate balance of power.
It would.
It's concerning to think about the potential for increased militarization of the Arctic
Right.
as countries compete for position and resources.
Absolutely.
What about the European Union? Do they have a role to play in all of this?
If Greenland or the Faroe Islands were to gain independence,
Right.
they would have to negotiate their relationship with the EU.
Okay.
Currently, they're not EU members,
Okay.
but they have a special status because of their association with Denmark.
Right.
Independence would require them to redefine those relationships,
Okay.
which could impact things like trade fisheries and other areas of cooperation.
So many different things could happen depending on how this all plays out.
For sure.
What do you think will determine how things unfold from here?
Well, it really depends on the decisions of the people in Greenland and the Faroe Islands.
Right.
If they choose independence, they'll face a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
Political, economic, social challenges as they build new nations and establish their place in the world.
Makes sense.
And the international community will be watching closely, ready to
Yeah.
engage with these new nations.
Well, this has been a really fascinating and evolving situation.
It has.
Thanks for guiding us through all this complex information.
You're welcome.
And to everyone watching,
Yeah.
we encourage you to keep learning about all of this and stay engaged with the story of Greenland, the Faroe Islands, and Denmark.
It's a fascinating one.
Thanks for joining us.